All right, guys, today we're going to replace the rear hatch shocks on the 124 E320 Wagon. So, I've got my support here to hold up the hatch. So the first thing you want to do is take these screws out and lower this panel. It lowers down and pulls back. There's some little hooks in it. I'll show you. And then you detach the headliner. There's some small clips there. And then you can get access to the hatch shock. So let me go ahead and start this. And we're just going to set our screws in the back there. Hey. All right. So once you have all these screws out here, there's 4. Then you want to get a little screw out right here on the side molding, because that molding, it fits right over. There you go. There's a little insert for this top molding that goes behind it. So you want to get it around there. Same goes for the other side. You want to be careful so you don't break the molding. Now there's also a screw you need to remove. There we go. Right there. And right there. So I'll go ahead and get those taken out. All right, what you also need to do, there's a little tab right here, or it's a little lip. And this lip tucks up behind the rubber window gasket. You got to ever so slightly get that out from behind the gasket. You can see I've started it over here on this side too. Once you do that, you can get this panel pulled down and slid back. All right, I stopped recording while I got this panel out, but basically once you get these little edges of the panel, untucked from the weather stripping or the window gasket, you can then kind of pry it out from underneath here without breaking these. Yeah, you can kind of pry the edges out, and then you pull it back, and you will see what was holding it in there is these little hooks right here. So basically, when you pull back on it, those hooks will detach and then it can come out. And this stuff is delicate. You don't want to force anything. You got to be very careful when you're doing it or you'll break things. Now that we have that out, I'm going to lay down back here and you will see there's these little hooks here that hold the headliner in, but you have these little removable pieces here and your little hooks here that you can pull back. You can undo the headliner from those hooks and then drop the headliner down and get access to up here where the shock comes through and attaches right in here. So let me go ahead and do that. All right, there you go, guys. So there's this metal bar that runs through here, and that's what was up here tucked around that hook. And once you pull it down, there we go. Now let's see if we can get access to what there we go. Right there. All right, guys, once you get access to this area, you need to get a screwdriver and bend that little tab back. And then this is a pin that can pull out. Now, in order to do that, we need to relieve tension or pressure. So up here, there you go. There is there you go. That's a C-clip, or it's a clip. And that clip needs to pop off, and then there's a pin that'll slide out inwards. So we need to get that off, and then once that's detached, and once that little tab is bent back and that pin is pulled out, that's a pin with a square head on it, then the shock can slide out the back side. All right, guys, to get that out, I have this little tool right here, and you can get that tool right. I'm trying to do this one-handed while I hold the camera. There you go, get that tool right underneath there. And you can, there you go. There you go, you can pry that little guy out. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that with the other one back here. Oh, that one's already loose, good. And there you go, now that that's hanging down, once we bend this tab here, we have room to get the shock out of the back. All right, talk about perfect timing. FedEx man just pulled up with the replacement shocks. And this is these are the guys that made the original stuff for Mercedes. Stabilis, anyway, made in Romania. That's the good stuff, good brand. You can also get that same brand for the engine shocks on the old diesels. So anyway, let me finish taking that, bending that tab back, pulling the pin out. We're going to get this little tab bent back here. We're going to get a screwdriver underneath it and kind of tap it in with a hammer. There we go. And then once you get it back enough, you can pretty much bend it back. Now this is, I'm going to finish doing that, but what I wanted to point out is that is a fiberglass insulation. So when you're working under here, this will fall on you. You hear me coughing. I just inhaled a bunch of it. So you got to be careful while you're doing that. So anyway, let me go ahead, get that tab bent out. So that tab is bent out of the way. And now we can pull out this rear, I guess that's a pin. First though, we need to loosen some tension on it by getting this pin out. So to get that pin out, there's a little, see if we can get in here and see anything. Okay, so there's the pin and you need to get it rotated. There you go. See, there's a little like tab on the top of the pin and you can tap on that. All right, guys, I just got that little piece out, and basically what I was able to do, it was in there like that, and I just stuck a screwdriver in there and pried up on it, and it slid off the end of the pin. So let me show you what we got now. There you go. You can basically pry against the side of the car and there you go, and the head of the pin. Now when you're doing that, my hand is above me. Let's see. And you can wiggle. All right, see how that's wiggling? You can wiggle the hatch a little bit as you pry on the end of the pin, and then you can get that pin pushed back. You see how, there we go. The end of the pin is now sticking through there. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this clip and pull this harness out of the way. I think that might actually be the squirter wrapped inside there for the rear windshield. But then I can get a screwdriver on that little slot. There you go, right there in the pin, and I can pry that pin out, and that will disconnect the front of the shock. This can be moved out of the way. There we go. And that's just some dirt and debris in there. Because the reason there's dirt and debris in here is because this is the water drain area. See, the water drains down through here. And this is actually a seal on the hinge. And when you close the hatch, that seal plugs up the hole that goes through to the strut, and it creates a seal. That way the water doesn't go back that way into the car. It pulls up here. That seal blocks the hole. See the hole back in there? That seal plugs up against that hole, and then the water drains down through this channel. That's why you see a little dirt, debris, and stuff back in there, because that's a drain hole. I'm on my pin. I'm going to wiggle this a little bit. There we go. And you can start to get the pin out. I need a longer screwdriver for that. There we go. On the head of my pin back here. we go. All right. We got the pin out. Let me get my magnet now. There we go. There's the pin. Now I'll put a little grease on there when I put it back in there so it slides in good. Just goes, that holds our pin in there. Like I said, we'll grease this up real good when we put it back in there. Whoops, almost dropped my pin. Here we go. So that's what we just accomplished over here. So now we can go back and do the back side. We bent back our little tab there. Now we need to pull this pin out of the back. There we go. Remove the shock because it's all disconnected. Now we got to pull it out of the back. Let me show you how that works. Now it won't bend, but it'll actually flex down. There we go. See how it just flexes down? And it's not bent. You can just push it and it goes back up. So we're just going to flex it down a little. There we go. So that's flexed down. Now we can get up here and pull the shock out of the back. There we go. This is the boot. I just pulled that off the shock and you can see the shock. And there we go. See, it's disconnected. And we need to get this slid out of the back. First we need, it looks like it's binding right up here a little bit. Let's see. There we go. See, it's now detached. And now we can slide it out of the back. Oh, come on. It's hard to do this with one hand, guys. Got to clear this wiring harness. All right, so I can't do this with one hand. But anyway, the shock is going to come out through the back right there. Got it. There we go. There's our replacement shock. And it is identical to the original. Same manufacturer. This is who made them for Mercedes. Here we go. So let's feed that guy back up in there. Holding that position. All right. Now, see the boot right here? I think you can see that in the video. We obviously want to get the end of our shock through the center of the boot. I don't need to show that. You guys get the idea. All right, there we go. Our shock is through the boot. Now we just want to get it to line up. There we go. We can already see. There you go. See the tip of the shock that's coming through right there? We just want to get it lined up on the end of the hinge and put our pin back through there. All right, guys, we got our pin back in there. And the tool I use to do it are these curved forceps. Basically, you get your pin locked in there, and then you can lock the forceps. And that way, you can come in there from an angle and force it through there. It's very difficult to get the pin in. You also have to have some magnets available, so every time you drop it, you can pull it back out of there. So you guys can see, let me move the light. All right. You guys can see I've barely got it. There you go. I've got it started. And we're just going to try to push it in the rest of the way. There we go. Got it in the rest of the way with our screwdriver. And now we can need to get our clip on the end. As you can get them on here. And there you go. Then you can clamp them and they lock. And it holds them in there. So I'm going to try to go in there from that angle. There we go. Our pin is back through there and the clip is on there. Guys, as you can see, this is not an amateur job. This is very tedious and challenging. You need to be patient and pretty damn good with your hands and tools to get this done. I mean, you can see there's all the tools I've used in this process. You can see there's the end of the shock right there. We need to get the hole lined up and put our peg through there. And then we have to do the whole job again on that side. There we go. Yep, y'all can see I got the pin in now. And I'll just go ahead and tap it in. All right, before I start on the other side, I just want to show you the improvement by just replacing one of the shocks. You notice it already stays up by itself. But just having one shock replaced, it will almost make it by itself. There we go. Now, just wait and see when we get this other shock replaced how it operates. You guys ready for this? This is how it worked from the factory. Look at that. Fantastic. That is absolutely beautiful, guys. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get all the headliner reattached, put my clip back on here, get the trim piece put back in, and we're good to go. We got our pins reattached. And then our bar is attached back here around the hooks, and our two pins are right there. So the headliner is reattached, and it's time to put that piece back across the top and then tuck it into the lip of the window gasket. We got to get, whoops. Okay, good, that one's in. Let's see if we can get this one in. Perfect. There it goes. Okay, so we have the retaining hooks on right here and right here are in place, and we correctly slid our molding over the ends. Now the tricky part is we have to get, there we go, that little lip right here goes behind the gasket. So I have to peel back the gasket and tuck the lip in there. And that's pretty tricky, but I'll just show you when I'm done. I use a combination of the plastic tools like this to peel back the gasket, and like some curved forceps to get in there and run down along the edge to feed it in there. All right, you guys, I have the hatch struts replaced, and check it out. Ta-da! That is beautiful. And just for dramatic effect, I put up the third row seat in a little net. But that is now super strong. Let's do that again. That is awesome. So as you can see, all the trim is exactly back in place. No rips, tears, nothing was damaged during the process. And if we get in here, third row seat, we can see it is correctly tucked under the window gasket. I'll show it over here on this side. There we go. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's correctly tucked under there. And let's take a look at our headliner. You can see Headliner, perfect condition. Everything was reattached exactly like it was from the factory. Let's go ahead and put down our seats and we'll look at the headliner from the other side, because what you see a lot of times is a gap in the top panel. After someone removes it, they don't put it back on correctly. So let's go around the other side. And you can see right there, it is perfectly flush with the headliner. There is no gap in the panel. That is a correct installation, and that's the way you replace the shocks without damaging anything. And it's very easy to break one of these panels when you're doing this job. So, very proud how that turned out. All right, so that was the final thing to do on this car. That completes the 1995 E320 Wagon, and we are going to take it out in the shade here under the tent, do a nice car wash and detail it, and then we're going to go on a test drive and do the walk around video, and this car will be for sale on the website. So you can check everything out on the website, woodsandbarclay.com. I think there's going to be a total of 4 videos on this car, everything that was done: hood pad, rear window regulators, gauge cluster restoration, rear hatch shocks, and then the test drive and walk around. And I really like this car. This is the cool one. So stay tuned, woodsandbarclay.com, and we'll see you guys in the next video.